Hello. Welcome to another episode of My Good Content with your host, Byron LaBare. Today we have one of the most accomplished female distance runners in American history, with 28 American records, and that's both on the track and the roads. She's been to 2 Olympics, and in the most recent games for her, the 2016 Rio Games, she set the American record in the 10,000 meters. So with that being said, I bring to you the amazing Molly Huddle. Molly, welcome to the show. And with the career you've had spanning 20 years now, and you continue to go, if you could please take us back to those early days in your hometown of Elmira, New York, and how did running all begin for you?
It wasn't the most popular sport. I went to a smaller school and I was a literal one-woman cross-country team. So I gotta say, I felt like a little bit of an outlier running around the streets of Elmira if it wasn't for my dad and my grandpa also running the same loop as me, like every morning. But yeah, they got me into it, and then they did introduce me to, my dad was in, he would meet they're called the Slugs Running Club as a joke.
I remember that.
The crew of people that would always do the road races in the area. I tapped into that community because they were always fun to talk to. They always rooted for me. We would see them at indoor meets and road races. So I found my people there. And then, when I went to college, it was like my head exploded that other people my age loved distance running. I just felt like kind of a nerd. Although I did love other sports. I loved my soccer team. I loved my basketball team. But as a distance runner, I felt like there just weren't too many of us in town. So we all stuck together when we found each other.
Yes, and it was something new that I read when I was looking up some things last week that I wasn't aware, but I know in your high school, similar to that of UE when I went there, we had, for cross country for 2 years, we had one woman on the cross country team. But at Elmira Notre Dame, you didn't even have a women's cross country team from 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, correct?
That's right. I think it was good for me to try other sports. So I played soccer. I really wanted to make that national championship cross country race my senior year. It was called Foot Locker at the time, and I needed a team. I needed to run races, and I needed to practice. So my dad kind of lobbied for me to race, and I would race against other teams, but I never had a team score, so that kind of defeated the purpose. But I did get in really good shape, and I fell in love with cross country, so we made it work.
Do you have a favorite track meet that you had back in the day in high school, or a favorite cross country course to share?
The cross country courses, I only ever ran each one once, so nothing really stood out as far as, it just was so long ago. I do remember one race, it must have been later in the season. I think we were in Marathon, New York, I think it was, is that even a town?
Marathon, you say Marathon. Diane Sherrer, who I spoke to yesterday, his favorite cross country course is Marathon. So you're the second person.
Yes, and what made it notable was it was like a blizzard. We were racing in this blizzard. It was the only time I'd ever raced in snow. And I was just like, this is crazy. It was sticking to our eyelashes and no one could see. And the pictures were awesome. So that stands out. The course I remember just kind of being it was pretty much out and backs. But my dad always let me back at those photos.
In Marathon, I could see the snow because it's right near Cortland. So I can see that's probably the course, so much snow going through there. It was the Locker Cross Country Championships. That was in San Diego, correct?
Yeah, every year it is. The year I ran it and one other year it was in Florida, though.
Oh, it's interesting how Elmira Notre Dame High School, and then you went to the University of Notre Dame. How did that come about? How did you proceed in recruiting and those types of things to get to University of Notre Dame?
Yeah, it was a mystery to me at the time. I think I learned a lot that last year. This speaks to my age that I didn't go on the internet. I didn't really know know who else was running fast. Coaches would call and tell me they knew how fast I had run the week before, and I'd be like, how did you know that? And there were some early message boards with times and stuff. But it was early days, and so I didn't do a ton of research. I would study the media guides, the magazines, and just learn about the programs. But I'd always been a Notre Dame fan. My family went out to 1 or 2 football games. My dad went there and really loved his time on the track team. So,
okay.
It was something I always wanted to do, and then my times got good enough that I was able to go. And so I did look at a couple other schools really seriously, but I kind of always wanted to go to Notre Dame. So, I felt lucky that the times were like the coach was interested in the times. He just saw my dual meet performances, my national performance, and that opened a lot of doors right there.
I know you've mentioned that she was like a role model of yours, so maybe if you want to share a little bit about Diane.
Yes, I like remembering Diane Sherrer. She actually she passed away my first year out of college around that
2009.
time. Around 2009.
Yeah.
Of lung cancer, ironically, because she was a runner, a distance runner, and so healthy. And but she was also a running journalist, and she was part of this crew I would meet at these local road races in Elmira. And she was usually one of the only women. And so she was always blessing in my ear about, like, you know, age group records and women's records. And she was always doing cool stuff. Like, she was always setting, like, relays, masters records with her friends. And like, she just really, like, was a lifetime track and field runner. She would run the New York City Marathon. She would tell me funny stories about how she, like, knocked out her tooth going over the bridge because she tripped. And so I think I thought about her the first time I ran it. I was like, imagining Diane running over the bridge. But she was really, like, encouraging too. Like, I remember she would introduce me to these women runners who I didn't know. Like I said, the internet wasn't like what it is now, so there just wasn't access to some of the runners. I didn't really even know professional running was a thing. So she would do nice things. At Freihofer, she had Marla Runyan sign a big poster for me. It was introducing me to these people. She had an interview with Grete Waitz, or she might have been personal friends with Grete Waitz before she died, and she had her email me when I was in high school, and I remember being, like, unaware of who she was, and then I, like, asked her, like, about her running, and then I looked her up afterwards and was like, oh my gosh, that was legendary, like, I can't believe I asked you that, I don't know anything, but also, like, wow, she actually reached out to me, how nice. So she was always doing encouraging things like that. And also, she's a journalist. Like, I think that's so cool that, like, that's something I'm interested in now, is, you know, like, writing about women's running and women's sports journalism. So it's funny to think back, because I'm like, she was probably a bigger influence than I realized.
Yeah, by what you're saying right now, you think, because especially like you said back then, now you can go on any platform, social media. And back then, I actually remember Diane that way too, because I have like a book signed by Frank Shorter, and Kelly and I got it, and it was actually because we knew Diane. But she knew everyone. Diane was almost like the Instagram and Facebook of before it was out. She knew everyone. She could connect people. She was so sweet. I can see how you thought so highly of her and how she could have impacted you that way.
Yeah, totally. And I think I like to remember her. I feel like I don't get to talk about her enough. So yeah, definitely she was a big influence on me.
Well, that's fantastic. So then going into college, a 10-time All-American, correct? I think that's what I look.
Yeah.
There's so many that when I'm looking at your numbers, I'm like, wow. What if you don't mind me asking, like through college, I know 5,000, 10,000. Was there one that was your favorite, the 5 over the 10 back in college, or what was your preference for distance?
I really liked the 5K. Yeah, I you know, for most of my entire running career, that was my favorite event. And it's a little too fast for me now, but up until a few years ago, that was my favorite, and I've run so many, it was kind of a comfort zone for me.
Okay. And then that was the time frame in 2004 that you ran the Kelly LaBare 5K. So I remember I have pictures, actually, so I was over at my parents the other day, and we were looking through old pictures, and that's when we were talking about Diane Sherrer. We came across pictures of you and your family from the race, and that's kind of what triggered reaching out to you as well. The Kelly LaBare 5K, and I know it's a long time ago. I can't believe it's 20 years ago already. But what do you maybe remember about the race, what you liked? And your course record does still stand. Well, 16:14, so.
Yes, I remember, I believe my uncle is the one who told me about the race. He lived in Rochester at the time. And I wasn't sure if I'd be able to do it, because typically in the summer we do some like postseason races or cross country build. Like, it's just a tough time in the summer, but I had been coming off an injury, and so it actually was something I really wanted to do to test my fitness. And I think I was trying to break 16 minutes even, and I couldn't do it. I remember being like, oh, that was really hard. But yeah, like, I remember being unhappy with my time afterwards. But yeah, it was a great time. A lot of my family was there, so that's always fun.
Well, you can always come back and break 16.
I can nearly break 16 now.
After college, I know you had a stellar career because that's, like I said, I was looking online and all of a sudden it breaks it down by year because of such wonderful years you had. I know you were on the cross country team because I think it was twice that you were on the cross country team for the Women's World Championships and you won bronze medals.
Yeah, I did it 3 times, I think, but we only medaled twice. It was the first national team I made was the cross country team. It was always a challenge for me. I was never quite as good at cross country as I was on a flat surface like a road or a track, but it always got me in really good shape for track. And it was a great experience. First international experience. And then it was really thrilling, to get a team bronze. We were close that first year, and so then to come back again and get it the next time was really cool. And even one of the years, our top finisher, Chalet, had a bronze medal individually as well as our team bronze. So it was like a really cool thing to be a part of.
When you got to some of those big races, the Olympic trials, then getting into the Olympics, and then even to add on to that, how did you prepare? I can't imagine the night before Olympic trials. I feel like that would be even harder than actually being at the Olympics because now you're there. What all goes into that?
Yeah, the Olympic trials are really stressful, especially a country like Team USA where it's they don't care if you're food poisoning that day. You show up and you gotta be top 3 and it's a deep field. It came from trial and error. The first 2 times I tried out for the Olympics, I did not make the team. And so one of those was college, and I was very level-headed and thought, great to be here. I was just coming off a freshman season. To be in the trials at all is awesome. And then the next time around, I figured maybe I'll make a team. And then that next time came around in 2008, and I had just become a professional runner. And I actually had a qualifying time. I was one of only 3 women with the 10K qualifying time, and I just had a terrible meet. I just had to learn so much about a lot of things. I had incurred a small injury, and I just didn't stick to my routine at the race. So physically, I fell off, but just mentally, I felt like it was such a big event that I didn't know how to focus. And so I had to learn that. It was, NCAA is big, but this was some, Eugene, Oregon, filled with all these cameras and people, and the importance of it, weighing on you. I could just figure that out. And I did. After that was only year 1 of that kind of pressure. So I just kind of figured out how to just treat it when it was a big race, I treated it more like practice. And when it was practice, I tried to amp myself up and think it was a race. I'm always dialing it up and down when I needed to. So that really worked for me in later years. But some of it too was just distance running. It takes years of stacking the fitness. And so I did think I just needed a few more years too of, the training I was doing with Ray. I came out of college as a low volume runner. I just needed to do a little bit more for a few more years, and the fitness took care of a lot of the confidence. Just trial and error and just make mistakes and keep doing the work a few more years.
So when you say low volume, I think a lot of runners, were all over the place with that and stuff. So what would you say low volume in college compared to what you were doing out of college?
I was probably 50 miles a week in college, 50 to 60. I didn't do doubles until my senior year. I had a couple injuries that took me out of running for a couple months. So I think I just was undertrained, really, when I look back on it. Mm-hmm. Trying to come back from an injury all in one season, when one season in college is really only 3 months. That's actually a very compacted time. I realize now as a pro. Back then it felt like I had so much time. Now I know 3 months is a training cycle. That's really not stop running, start running, get fit again. So things like that. I just was able to amp it up gradually to more 80 miles a week, but as a pro.
Okay. And with that being said, how did you fit in the balance between recovery, weight training, those types of things? I think a lot of people sometimes look at runners and they think, oh, they're so lucky they're a gifted runner, and they're not looking at what they're doing.
Yeah, the recovery was really important as far as allowing the workouts to take me to the next level. I PR'd in pretty much from 1500 to 5K my first year out of college, the first summer. And so it was really, 4 weeks removed from all the training I was doing at Notre Dame with my coach there. But I was recovering. I wasn't going to class. I was just hanging out all day. I wasn't mentally stressed or text. Like, I just was running, resting, hanging out with my new running friends, and racing. And that made all the difference. And even that first year out of college, I would try and get, do all these other things in between my runs. And, I eventually, learned to remind the women on the team that, that's just what it costs to be that next level of good.
Mm-hmm.
You really recovered to dig really deep, to do it again and again. And I eventually kind of just, stalled at work. I had to feel it myself. So yeah, that definitely was an important shift. And then weight room stuff, it's really more correcting imbalances. So you do a lot of those as a distance runner, especially just the way my biomechanics are. And so it was, a couple of days a week getting in there and doing the right kind of exercises. For me, really, it was a lot of core work, not a ton of heavy stuff, and mobility work, and then seeing a good body work therapist often. And I'm lucky to have met a really good body work therapist on our split winter training down in Arizona. So I worked with him my entire career, and those things combined with great coaching and teammates to drive me along, that is what it took to jump to the next level. And it was really helpful to watch them and see how they structured their day, those athletes that I was training with ahead of me, because otherwise I really wouldn't have known what I was doing wrong as far as recovery and things like that.
So when you were in Arizona, were you in Flagstaff?
We were actually, we're in Scottsdale for warm weather training. We go to Flagstaff periodically, but mostly we're in Scottsdale. Yeah.
What do you think of the elevation compared to a little bit closer to sea level like you are now in the Northeast?
If you're going to be an elite level distance runner, you need to go to training camps that incorporate altitude and low training. So you're going to have to travel no matter what. And then you could pick, where you want to live for that other part. I like New England. I like the East Coast. It does have a bad winter that I cannot train through. So we did have to do a warm weather training camp, and we also had to do an altitude training camp. But if I lived at Flag, I would have to go to sea level for portions. I pretty much anyone you talk to at this level does a lot of training camps and traveling.
Okay.
Yeah, so you kind of need all those ingredients, I think, to really fine tune your performance level. But yeah, I just love the East Coast in New England, so that's where I want my home to be.
7 American records, correct?
I've lost a lot of them now. Maybe at one point, yeah. Maybe at one point you were started. I have to check.
So what one or two would stand out to you, and why?
The first one in the 5K always stands out because it just was such a confidence shift. It was I felt like it made me believe that I could do things that I didn't think I could do before. So that was 2010 in the 10K or 5K. And then the half marathon was kind of cool, I guess, because, the 10K was cool because it was at the Olympics, and you always want to have be the fastest you've ever been at the Olympics.
Yes.
I in 2012, I felt like I didn't have the performance I wanted, so all you can do is your best, and it's hard to get it to happen on that day. So I feel like maybe that 10K record in 2016 was special, even though I don't have it anymore. But to do it on the right day is always tough.
Yes, true. Being all the way to there and having your best race, I could see that being amazing. So now you've shifted more towards the marathon. You've been running more marathons, and how's that going for you so far? How do you enjoy running that distance?
Yeah, the marathon is tough. I don't think it's my natural strong suit. The half marathon I like. I do think I have not hit my potential there. I do think I'm, even at this age, still capable of a sub 226, especially with the new shoe technology. So it kind of keeps me coming back. I don't know how many more I'll do. Maybe one more, and we'll see. But yeah, it's hard on the body for sure.
That you just triggered a question for me, because your career has been so long, amazing career, going back 20 years. So the point you just made about the shoes now. What are your thoughts on that? Because it's like anything, the golf clubs come out, they're different. But the shoes, to your point that you just made, they can help now and stuff. And what are your thoughts on those?
Yeah, it's been a tough transition into the shoes. I think my biomechanics just weren't great with unstable foam. I just had some ankle issues. I had really bad ankle sprain in college, and I couldn't work the foam right on my left side, and then I damaged it even more. So it was really hard to get used to them. And I don't know if I was just old enough to have trouble getting used to them when they came out, maybe, I wasn't flexible enough. But now they've come out with a couple iterations, and I actually like the Saucony Elite. Saucony Endorphin Elite because it helps me like roll off my toe better. And, I do run faster in those. Like I'm running times I wouldn't run. Like it's keeping me in the game longer. Like people talk about running a marathon in them and feeling fine the next day. And I do not feel fine the next day. It still hurts a lot. Like it pushes the force kind of into other areas of my legs.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely learning to work with the technology and as much as my body will allow, because it's just really, I'm not a flexible athlete anymore. Like I'm kind of set in my patterns. But yeah, they've been an adjustment. They've been something to get used to, and they make a big role in road races, right? Like everyone's got them, so you have to figure it out.
Yes. Oh, that's great. So what's next then? What's next for you? Any big races coming up?
I'm doing a couple of road 10Ks. I'm racing this weekend at the Mini in New York. I'm not sure when this pod will come out, but yeah, this weekend at the Mini and then BA 10K. And just kind of having some fun on the roads this summer and deciding on the fall marathon. And yeah, I'll be 40 in the summer, so I'll enter the Masters ranks, which is crazy. I didn't ever think they'd be running this long.
It's something you have to let go a little bit of the past and move forward. I thought that was one of the hardest things, of letting go of what you were doing.
Yeah, like definitely some of the Masters women are running like nation leading times. Like you look at like Sara and Keira and Edna Kiplagat is in her mid 40s, I think, and she's still like PRing, which is crazy. And you're seeing these examples. I don't feel that good, but it's cool to see that it's possible.
Well, the amount of miles on your legs must be for 20 plus years. So
yeah, it's a lot. That it's definitely taking its toll on my feet and ankles. But I'm still going. I still enjoy it. I'm definitely the last couple of years just been finding fun challenges and just enjoying being part of the community.
Okay. So one last thing. So with my sister's race, the Kelly LaBare 5K, coming up August 4th. Do you have anything to share with the young runners out there, high school runners, middle school runners, that when you look back on your amazing career that you've had, any advice to give to those young runners?
Yeah, I would say try and stay patient. You don't want to be training like an Olympian right now because distance running, you can do it for a long time. And so you don't want to burn out on it, and you want to take care of your body really well, right? So you want to fuel well. You want to not be running on injuries. Try not to overdo the training and try not to like crush the fun part of the sport so early, even though I know you can be really ambitious when you're young. So if you just take that longer view, and yeah, just build those years, stack those miles, and you'll see it pay off.
Well, thank you so much for being on here. And I wish you the best in all your upcoming races.